tackling each individual facility as the priority arises.
Thank you.
Any other discussion, questions? Councilor Brunton?
I want to get this straight, that we are going out, and I realize it being camera, but we're going to deal with the possible acquisition, I'll use that word, of land. Is that not backwards?
Pardon?
Is acquisition or possible acquisition of land not backwards if we don't know what we're going to put on it? Does that make sense to you? Maybe I'm wrong. I've done a lot of things in a lifetime in terms of building things, but I decided what I wanted to build first before I went out and acquired any land. So anyways, having said that, again, I would like to see us have something in hand that says, here's what we can build and here's what it's going to cost, and then go from there. But maybe I'm wrong. Okay, thank you.
I have a motion, and you have the same motion on the first page of the report with staff's recommendations, and I do have a mover, Councillor Black. I don't have a seconder, Councillor Oliver. And just, if I may summarize, I'm not going to read it word for word. It's in front of you. We receive the report as information. The staff investigates into a multi-use facility. That we approve recommending the replacement of a Simcoe Senior Center. That we approve recommendation to proceed with a new recreational pool to be constructed. And that Simcoe be the preferred location of these facilities. And further, that council approve that we investigate land that is up to approximately 25 acres in the urban area of Simcoe to hold a multi-use facility. And finally, we're recommending that council direct staff to do a closed session and prepare a report about locations of possible construction of a multi-use facility within the Simcoe urban boundary. Debate on that motion. It has been moved and seconded. Councillor Black, and then Columbus, and then Oliver.
Thank you very much, Mayor Luke, and yes, I support it. And just a few comments for debate. I thank the I was going to say county manager. I got to get used to the chief administrative officer, our CAO, for his remarks, because I do totally agree that this is a multifunctional process, multi-step process. We've gone through the first. Would be the second. I do agree that we need to look at the land, and then later on, step by step, start to fine tune. We have. I agree that we need to look at the legacy fund as an option for funding, but that I think is later on in the process. Some of the other details that questions I've asked earlier, again, those are later on in the process. And I know staff have a valuable resource on staff, and that's Todd Shoemaker. You know, we forget that Todd has actually gone through this whole process. So we have a very valuable resource in Todd, not to mention our other staff as well, but Todd has actually gone through this recently. And I know that some councillors and staff have been to Wilmot. We do know what the size of Wilmot and what's in that facility. We do know what piece of land it would fit on. We've actually had our GIS people take that facility and transpose it onto potential sites in Simcoe, so just to see if it fit and how the parking would work out. And through my observation, there's no problem with some of the sites and the Wilmot facility fitting on it. So I think we're ready to move on, and I'd ask for a recorded vote if you don't mind, Mayor Luke.
Columbus, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Oliver mentioned something earlier about the does the project have to be within the urban Simcoe boundary? And I see it's stated here, urban Simcoe. And I just wonder whether we can't leave the word urban out. And perhaps there is, if we're looking at Simcoe or some land to the west to satisfy some of the taxpayers to the west, like why does that word urban have to be in there? Because it kind of puts a boundary to it. So I'd like to ask the mover if that word urban could be removed.
Do you want a response or not from staff on the importance or the unimportance of urban?
Well, I think I know what they're going to say.
You know what they're going to say, so you don't
but
want to hear their
I'd
answer.
like
Okay.
to ask Councillor Black if he would
Councillor
mind
Black?
removing that word urban.
I'm sorry, but no, I won't, because you'll have to move an amendment. And the reason is because of what I've heard from staff, and Councillor Oliver even made note of it, that through our official plan process, the lengthy process, an undertaking to change the zoning, to make sure that PPS is complied with, that we have our services in place, all of those things will take time. And if we do not have it in the urban area, in the urban boundary, with all of those facilities and zoning already in place, this is going to continue on and on forever.
Mr. Oliver?
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. I share my colleagues' concerns, but I also 100% agree with Councillor Black. I think if we think this is a good thing for us to proceed with, we should be optimistic that a site within the urban boundary that is serviced will bubble to the surface, and that's what we want. It would definitely add to the length of time and the cost to have to further go out, although I share what my colleagues are asking about relative to the west side or the central business area, and let's remain optimistic that parcels may percolate up that we can consider. Mr. Mayor, I would like to see if I can get a friendly amendment to the motion.
That's in
If
order.
you're
We'll see
willing
what,
to have it. It's going to be two things.
Okay.
First of all, with respect to the paragraph 4 of the recommendation, Council approved recommendation number 2 of the subcommittee resolutions that a new recreational pool be constructed. My friendly amendment would be of not less than 8 lanes and including a therapy pool. Thank you very much.
Not less than 8 lanes?
Not less than 8 lanes and including a therapy pool. I think that's understood. I believe everyone has thought that if we're going to do it, that would have to be part of it as a minimum. But I think it will give our users in the community a sense of reassurance and comfort if it's there, even at this early stage. My second one, Mr. Mayor, would be the very last paragraph, and I'll just go for the very last line. As a next step in investigating a multi-use facility, with the report to be presented to Council by April 30th. 2018. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'm going to add them to your motion, gentlemen. So that's a friendly amendment to be added those to an 8-lane pool, including a therapy pool, along with a report to come to council by April 30, 2018. Any other discussion? Councillor Height, Sonnenberg, and Brunton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Luke. Mr. Mayor, I like McLaren sports cars, 720S's specifically, so if anyone out there wants to give me one, I'll find the garage to put it in. Okay, and that's what I feel we're doing now. We're looking for a garage or a piece of land to build a facility on that we don't know how we're going to afford it. Okay, the City of London is building the Southwest Center right now, been over budget 4 times right now, $50 million, financed it all, personal, London did, right? The province didn't kick in anything, neither did the feds. Okay, so we don't know where we're going. To go out, send staff for 4 months to look for some property in Simcoe? The London Center's on 11 acres, but we in Norfolk need 25, 30. All right, like, how are we going to afford it? That's what I want to know. We know from our treasurer, we haven't saved a dime to this, okay? Our reserves are in the negatives. The legacy fund is what props up our credit rating right now from the cash. Other than that, it costs us a lot more to borrow. When I look at the borrowing, I see 1.9% increase on every tax bill for the next, 20, 25 years? Never mind the large amount of debt that we've taken on in the last 3 years. We've taken on $16, $18 million each year just like nothing. And what, we're going to debenture another 20 million? And that's only if we get money from the province and the feds. They're not kicking in a lot of cash right now. Like you said, it's an election year. But what really bugs me, Mr. Mayor, is there's 9 of us that sit around here and we listen to our constituents, and we've had a rate of 1% feedback. Okay, there's an election coming up this fall. Put it on a referendum vote. Let the people decide. Just because I've had 90% of the people call me and tell me no, they don't want it, okay, fair enough, maybe some other councillors have had it the other way around. But let them decide, and then we know going ahead. There is no second guessing it. And if we want it and the people say no, that's how it works. I don't know that we should be making that decision without going to everybody. And this is the opportune time. There's a ballot coming up in the fall. We can, if the clerk hustles, he can get it on as a referendum item. And it just has to be simple. Multi, or a hub, whatever you want to call it, multi-facility, yes or no. And that's it. Other municipalities have done it, Mr. Mayor, and it seems to work for their councils. So I definitely won't be supporting this.
Councillor Height, just to comment, and as chair, I can't get involved in the debate, but the motion clearly gives staff direction to look at sites approximately up to 25 acres. May come back with a 10-acre site, but at least it doesn't put the handcuffs on them for the full 25. Thank you for your comments. I'll move on then. I would go to Councillor Sonnenberg, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't be supporting the recommendation as outlined. I would like to see us make use of land we already own, be it county-owned or Board of Education-owned. I like the idea put forward by Councillor Columbus. A gymnasium adjacent to a school, whether it be in Simcoe or Delhi. That's an option. To me, the most important part of this whole discussion is a seniors complex. And I can see them in a standalone location, don't need to be part of a 25-acre hub complex. So as for the pool, I would like to see the existing pool stay where it is, make use of it as a therapy, children's area, splash around, build a competitive pool adjacent to it. Make use of the pool that we have and add on to it. So there's a whole lot of variables here, and I don't like the way it's outlined at present. And of course, as Councillor Height pointed out, money is a big issue. And wow, how are we going to fund this? And as for a referendum, there's going to be as many ideas as there are voters. I can't see a referendum working. We around this table will make that ultimate decision. Thank you.
Councillor Broughton.
Thank you, Mayor Luke. I didn't know we were getting into design tonight, but Councillor Oliver's raised the issue about how many lanes and how long and so forth. So I'd like to make an amendment. I support a swimming pool. I think a bigger pool and everything's ideal, and Councillor Sonnenberg has a great point. Add it on to that pool, and you got a therapy pool next to it already. If we're going to get into design, I'd like to see if the seniors, how many thousand square feet do you need down there? Or where do you want it? You know, I think we should plan that right now if we're planning the swimming pool. There's too many issues in these recommendations that, to me, have not been answered. And again, I'd like to see us come up. Let's put the whole gauntlet into a cost concept, and then we can deal with it. I don't know if we're talking 20 million or 50 million here, because I really don't know what we're putting in it. So, but if I'd like to make an amendment that the seniors be consulted with the size of their facility if we're designing the swimming pool. Other than that, I won't be supporting the recommendation. Thank you.
I have a proposed motion from Councillor Brunton that would include, the amendment would be to consult the seniors on the size of their facility. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Oliver? So that is an amendment then? Not a friendly one, an amendment? Councillor Brunton has moved, and Oliver has seconded, that the seniors be consulted respecting the required size of their facility. Any discussion? Councillor Sonnenberg?
As I said earlier, that's my number one priority here. Seniors, let's take care of the seniors first. So if that means consulting them, with them as to size and what they need in their facility, I'll certainly support this.
Any other discussion on the motion? Mr. Height?
Thank you, Mayor Luke, I think we heard from the seniors before, they want to keep their center downtown. I thought that was pretty loud and clear the last time we got that message. So I'll certainly support this, and I know there's some room in some downtown spots. There might be a free building rate shortly, so we wouldn't even have to build one. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Motion to consult the seniors respecting the required size of their facility. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And then we go back. That amendment is passed. We'll go back to the motion as presented. Councillor Brunton, I think that's what you want. Councillor Black for a second time to the motion.
Thank you, Mayor Luke. And just, I guess in response to some of the comments, if we don't do this or if we don't do anything, what do we do? We've got a recreation facility that's been obsolete in my mind for 18 years now. We tried we were told back 18 years ago that we needed to do something with that. That was Town of Simcoe days, and then moved into Norfolk County. We decided to repair. We did that. I don't believe we were successful, and I don't think you'll find any user of that pool that will agree that there's been problems after problems with the renovation, trying to bring it up to some kind of acceptability, too much chlorine, not enough ventilation, and it goes on and on. Closed down, so you can't access the facility. So we have to do something. We have to do something. So, and the concept of a hub is, we've been told that the chances of getting upper level money is more, it would be more available if we had the facilities, the seniors in one area, like a hub. You know, we have other problems that we have to deal with that we haven't mentioned here, like the fire department has outgrown their facility. The ambulance in Simcoe has outgrown their facility. The recreation department and staff have outgrown their facility. What do we do with them? You know, when it comes to funding, I mean, we have allocated, I believe, is it $6 or $7 million in the budget to look at the rec center. That's been sitting there for a number of years, 4, 5 years. It's been sitting there, being put off and put off. So I think the time is now. This recommendation is still wide open. It just moves us one step further in the process.
Councillor Oliver, I would like to speak to the motion if you would take the chair and I could take yours.
Oh, my apologies. When did you become deputy mayor? Oh, I know, December 1st, but I just wanted to see if you were awake there. Okay. Could we, please? Sorry, Councillor Oliver, that's the motion. That's the speaker's list.
Go right ahead. The chair recognizes you, Mayor Luke.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I guess, speaking to the motion, I don't think any of us really know the exact perfect way to proceed to build a multi-purpose recreational facility, hub, whatever you want, label you want to put on it. So I understand a little bit of the frustration. So when the 9 of us don't know exactly what we're doing, I can certainly understand the frustration from the public. But I do want to make a few comments. Last September 28th, just a quick review, and we know last September 28th, we started our public meetings in Waterford. 4 months ago, I thought we did a good job. I thought the public came out and they let us know what they like and they didn't like. And we also had about 3.5 hours of deputation last April or May in this council chamber, and we got a good feel that people are in agreement that we need to upgrade our aging facilities. We're tired of repairs, and it's time to look at replacement. The pool is 45 years old. And I won't get into the speech that it doesn't owe us anything, but it doesn't owe us anything. So I think we've done well engaging the public. I think we're trying to do our homework, and we've come up with 8 recommendations. And many of these things will happen hand in hand. So whether we look at how we're going to finance it before we look at whether we've got a large enough piece of property or what size of facilities we want or the details, you know, they can all go in hand. You can be doing one thing, looking for land, and doing other things. But I think the key to me, and you've heard me say this over and over and over again, is that when we are planning for a multi-purpose hub facility, we desperately will need, as a matter of fact, it's critical that we have upper tier funding. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, Mr. Chair. If we can build for the future, and I'm going to say a $60 million or $50 million recreational hub for Norfolk, located in Simcoe, and we can pay for it and get that with 1/3 of local dollars, I think we'd be nuts not to do that. Because this opportunity may never pass again. Don't know. So I'd like to see us pursue that. And the one thing, through you to Mr. Cridlin, not a question, but a comment, is I am very, very pleased with this staff report. But there's one thing I don't like about it. How many times have we heard, if you're going to build it, Norfolk Council, don't cut corners and do it right? Now, on the summary that was provided to us from what people would like to see, number 1, by far, was a new pool. Guess what? That's in the recommendation on the floor. Number 2, an indoor walking track. That's could be a part of a gymnasium. I've seen them in arenas. Could be in a pool. Don't know. Probably not. Number 2 of what we spent our evenings with our 6 communities, Mr. Chair, is not even in the recommendation. It should be. I'd like to see it there. I recognize that it could be pursued later. Number 3 are ice pads. Not in the recommendation tonight. If we're going to pursue a recreational hub, let's get it in there. Let's set the land aside, at least to build one, with the provision that if we phase out Talbot or decide to get out of there, we can add it on later. We can phase this. Number 4, there was a combination, Mr. Chair, of fitness centers, gymnasium, multipurpose rooms. I'm kind of lumping that together as the 4th priority, not in the recommendation. Number 5, senior center, was 5th. It's our number 1 priority. It was a number 1 priority of Lee and Associates in 2014 when we paid $75,000 to look at the needs for recreational center facilities. Why are we not including those in this motion? To pursue those. I don't understand what we're doing here. Yeah, they can be added later. Why are we going for the double when we should be going for the home run? We should be putting them in here. They should be factored into the cost. They should be factored into land purchase. Without the funding, I don't know how we're going to build a hub. That's a whole different, that's for another day on how we're going to proceed. It's very important to me to follow the criteria that is needed to apply for one-third funding. Because if we don't have a decent application, we don't meet the criteria, we're wasting our time. Because without that one-third, I can't see us putting the cost of a hub entirely on the taxpayers. It'll be a longer period to get some of these facilities replaced. We need to get planning for the whole shooting match here, and we need to do that now. Mr. Chair, I'm going to suggest an amendment to the motion. If I don't get a seconder, I'll get back in my chair. We have included in the recommendation number 1 and 2. I would like an amendment, Mr. Chair, that recommendation number 3, that we build a new facility to replace the recreation center arena. That's a little overdue, folks, with the option of a new twin pad facility. The next item. The committee recommend other meeting rooms and administration facilities, including the Sports Hall of Fame at the existing recreation facility, be replaced. I would also, in my amendment, ask for that to be included. Mr. Chair, are we going to spend $50 million and have this beautiful, state-of-the-art, wonderful facility for Norfolk, and then say to people that come in there, but our offices are down at the rec center building. Oh, yeah, and they're over on Culver Street. We need our rec people in the new facility to serve the public. That's some of the efficiency. I'm going to include that in my amendment. Mr. Chair, the next one that's submitted tonight is that the committee recommending the building of a multi-purpose gymnasium, including an indoor track to be constructed, as Councillor Columbus says, in Norfolk County. That gives us the option if someone else wants to do that and wants to raise some funds, we can go that route. I would like that included because that's a high priority of our public. And my last one, of course, is that we include that the committee recommend that depending on the location of a new facility and twinning opportunities, back to number 3, that Talbot Gardens either be replaced or repaired. That facility is now 25, it was opened in 1992. I went back into the recreation report this morning and that was opened in 92. So it's 25 years old. Again, we can put one twin pad down, get a few more years if we have to out of Talbot and eventually close it and bingo. Now we've got what we wanted. So that is my amendment. And Mr. Chair, again, let's go after what we know are needed and wanted. And we're not, and that's not by everybody in the county, absolutely not. But let's at least get an application that we can give to the province that'll look after what we think we're going to need long-term, and as far as phasing or when the funding comes, at least we've got it from the start. Otherwise, what are we doing? We're back to piecemealing things. We're back to adding on, and I'm tired of that, Mr. Chair, so I don't know if there's a seconder for my amendment, but I'm done now. Thank you.
Before I ask for a seconder, I'm going to ask the clerk to read the proposed recommendations or changes, please.
Thank you.
That recommendation number 3 of the subcommittee to rebuild the recreation center with the option for a twin pad be approved, and that recommendation number 4 of the subcommittee respecting the inclusion of meeting rooms and administrative offices, including the Sports Hall of Fame, be replaced, be approved, and the recommendation number 5 of the subcommittee respecting that the committee recommend the building of a multi-purpose gymnasium, including an indoor track, be approved, and that recommendation number 6 of the committee, subcommittee reports recommending that the committee, depending on the location of a new facility and twinning opportunities, Talbot Gardens could either be replaced or repaired, be approved.
You want to add something or something incorrect?
No, it's perfect. Could I
Oh.
speak to the motion? I will be so quick.
Could I get a seconder first?
Oh, we need a seconder.
As the main mover of the motion, I would accept all of those as a friendly amendment.
You'd have to get the.
Check with the clerk to see if that's acceptable.
Through you, Mr. Chair, technically, in reality, friendly amendments don't exist. So with something that is this big of a change, it's good to do it as a formal amendment.
So we have a motion on the floor that has been moved and seconded, and Mayor Luke wishes to speak first, and you will speak second.
Mr. Chair, to the amendment, I've never promised anybody a rec hub, but I'll tell you this, it's an option that is incredibly important to look into. And it would be a mistake not to pursue the funding. It would be a mistake not to plan for that. Yes, there's a lot of details to work out. But Mr. Chair, if we are going to replace a number of facilities so desperately needed in this county that have been neglected for years other than expensive repairs, at least, I don't want people saying you never even tried. And then we'll have a decision, won't we? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Black, you're next, and then Councillor Oliver.
Well, I support the mayor's amendment, and actually, I think I moved probably most of these as a subcommittee member. And I understood when I read the report that staff were trying to maybe, make it a little simplified. But I absolutely agree that we need to be considering that, if not now, very, very soon. So, yes, absolutely include it, and let's get on with it.
Thank you. Councillor Oliver?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I too am going to support this amendment and appreciate that Mayor Luke acknowledged that these things came out of the subcommittee, and I do want to remind my colleagues that we did have a duly formed subcommittee that at least 4 of us every night were on, and others among you were there on the days or the evenings we had meetings in your urban communities. And I really appreciate that the mayor has done this with passion this afternoon. I mean, I felt too that all of it could have been in even at this stage. I understood where staff were coming. I know that if they can get us to do the next stage, which is finding the site, the next stage after that would have done it. But I fully support putting it all in now, and that will say to us as council and to the community, we want to study this in these parameters, which are those items. So I think it's a really good amendment.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to read the motion so we all know what is on the table, and we're going to vote on this separately. Mr. Clerk, please.
Through you. The recommendation number 3 of the subcommittee to rebuild the recreation center with the option for a twin pad be approved, and that recommendation number 4 of the subcommittee respecting the inclusion of meeting rooms and administrative offices, including the Sports Hall of Fame, in the new recreation center be approved. And the recommendation number 5 of the subcommittee respecting the building of a multi-purpose gymnasium, including indoor track, be approved. And that recommendation number 6 of the subcommittee respecting the potential repair or replacement of Talbot Gardens be approved.
You've heard the motion. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion carries.
Okay, now we're back to the main motion. You've heard it, and it will certainly include the 8-lane pool, including a therapy pool, and a report back to council by staff by April 30th this year, and this will be the motion as amended, correct? Record a vote, please.
Councillor Black. Yes. Councillor Wells. Yes. Councillor Sonnenberg. No. Councillor Height.
No.
Councillor Geisens. No. Councillor Columbus.
No.
Councillor Oliver.
Yes.
Councillor Brunton. Mayor Luke.
Yes.
The motion fails 5-4.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Clerk, for that. Any other business on this? Councilor Wells?
That's where we go from here, Mr. Mayor?
That will be up to council. Councilor Height?
Thank you, Mayor Luke. I like Councillor Brunton's idea where we design it. You can get plans right now at the London one. You can see what you're after. The council's already passed a list of the things that you're looking for. Why not take some of that funding and move towards a design? Looking for land in Simcoe, to me, that was a huge waste of time. There's land. I think we're council, we could zone it urban anyway. Maybe in a few years with an official plan amendment, Mr. Baird, but we could do whatever we wanted. But we need to design. Didn't council just agree on the features? So why aren't, if you really want to move forward, get the architect, no?
Well, I think if I may, I'm looking for motions to continue rather than just general debate. I see you, Councilor Brun. And if I may, the disappointment I have here is the fact that we're in the early planning stages of recreational facilities, and we basically just knocked it down on its knees. So where we go, we'll need a motion to discuss this further. Do you have a motion, Councilor Brun? Please. Thank you, sir.
Well, Your Worship, a lot of the things that were said around here, I do support. I just don't like the way we're going at it. So I would make a motion that staff, and we do have some funds in there, I recall, 50 grand, somebody mentioned, that staff be directed to put out an RFP to interested consultants to provide us with some concept drawings for a standalone hub with a cost estimate. That's the basics of it, and I don't know where it'll go, and I really don't care right now. I just want that concept with all the goodies we've discussed in it and how much it might cost us, and then we can go from there. And that's my recommendation.
I'm going to let the clerk just speak, and then I'm going to ask for a seconder.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the council has just essentially voted down all the recommendations of the hub. This is a reconsideration matter for a lot of these aspects. You voted that the staff are directed now to not investigate a multi-use hub anymore. The council.
Well, if I may.
The council moved forward with their further investigation into a multi-use hub. So the direction now is that all these aspects that we've discussed of putting into the investigation are.
Point of order? Yes, point of order, please.
Rather than a reconsideration, Mr. Mayor, we have not moved on in the discussion. Does a procedural bylaw allow us to a revote?
Certainly, it's important to ensure that council understands exactly the scope and magnitude of what they were voting on, and if there was a misunderstanding in what we voted, we could go back and do another recorded vote upon the matter. But
I am taking my direction and guidance from this gentleman on procedure. I also recognize that the wishes of council are how I proceed, as long as we're procedurally correct. So what you've just said is, we could, if we thought there was a misunderstanding of the motion that was just defeated, we could proceed. Say what you said. I heard it, but I don't have it verbatim.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's important for council to always understand exactly what they're voting upon, and here we have a number of recommendations that are required to proceed with any investigation or next steps into a multi-use facility. So if any council member voted in a certain way and did not understand and wishes to alter their vote now, they could indicate that, and we could go back and vote again. But passing that, we just need to move on, I guess.
Yes. One of the recommendations that was defeated was that council move forward with further investigation into a multi-use facility, and we have said, no, we're not going to do that. We are not going to proceed with investigating a multi-purpose facility. And of course, all the other things would have been part of that. Is there anybody that wishes to proceed with this? Councillor Columbus.
Mayor, I asked the mover if he minded making an amendment to take the word urban Simcoe boundary out. So that's why I made my decision the way I did, was, and Councillor Brunton's motion, it's because of the word urban boundary where there's limitations on where it goes. That's why I think his motion stands.
Councillor Black.
And on that point, I think it's still not locked in. If we do this assessment and cannot find adequate property in the urban area, why wouldn't we look outside?
I'm prepared to move on. Councillor Brunton?
I'm not an expert on procedure, Your Worship, but the motion was defeated. But we're debating the issue here of a multi-use hub, are we not? And can we not?
Sorry, we're debating the motion, and the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5 aspects are 6, including receiving it. Those were what was voted on.
Okay, and that was defeated.
That's correct.
Okay.
So
But-
we cannot further investigate at this point a multi-use facility, because that was in the motion, and that has been defeated. Anybody could have separated those should they wish.
Well, I apologize, because if I knew that we couldn't discuss it anymore, we would have had that section removed. I would have asked for it to be removed,
Which section?
that we couldn't discuss the hub anymore. I guess it's the last resolution, wasn't it? Second paragraph or whatever.
Right after information. This report and these recommendations are so preliminary and so crucial for the public to understand what this council really, whether they're behind replacing facilities. As I said, I can't promise anybody a hub.
Well,
But I know one thing, I know I need to get in favor of replacing some of our facilities. So the hub is one option of many.
I appreciate it, Your Worship, and I appreciate what you added, all those other issues that weren't included.
Okay.
But I'm looking at it, I guess, from a different aspect. I want to see a standalone hub costed for me, and then I'll move ahead. And I don't see what the problem is with that.
Councillor Brunton, let me just ask you this, and I'm in a debate and I shouldn't be. What, by passing this motion, would have prohibited you in any way in getting a cost estimate, in any way, shape, or form? How would this,
Wasn't included, Your Worship.
you could have added it.
Well,
I mean, we're going to have to get a cost down the road before we hand in an application for funding. I think we're trying to plan the whole project in one night, and I think this is just the first step. This is the first time council has the opportunity to say what we support and what we don't support. That's the first step. Getting the land, getting the financing, getting the sponsors, getting the design and the blueprints, and getting the user fees involved. That's all down the road to me. Anyhow, how do you want to proceed here? Because we're into a tough corner here. Councillor Oliver, please.
In further to Councillor Brunton's concern and perhaps frustration and not his intent, I guess, that this motion has done what it has done, or at least killing this motion has done what it has done. I'm just going to refer, if you'll give me permission, back in the report, page 6 again, the second paragraph. And Mr. Cridlin highlighted this for us, as did Mr. Cribbs. After a decision is made on a preferred site, staff recommends that an outside consultant, read architect, be hired to complete the financial viability of a multi-use center, including construction and operating costs. So I think the next step would be exactly what Councillor Brunton would like to have done, and that's how I feel, Mr. Mayor, and I don't know whether that might influence him to reconsider, if that's something that clerk has told us we could take another vote. Now that we all know the implications of turning this motion down, it's killing it. Do you want to kill it? If you do, you stick with it. If you don't want to kill it, you give us a chance to realize what that would do and perhaps see this motion pass after all.
Thank you. Mr. Brunton.
well, through the discussion, I heard Councillor Sonnenberg mention twinning of the rec center pool. I've heard possible twinning of Talbot Street Arena. I'm looking at a standalone multi-use hub, and we had about all these resolutions, and I didn't write them down, I'm sure the clerk has them. I want to see that multi-use facility in one location costed. That's what I was looking at first. I'm not concerned about land or anything right now. I want to know what we're looking at to build a hub, and that's all I wanted. And if it's not what we're going to do, then no, I won't change my vote. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Wright?
Mayor Luke, am I in order to move that we add this as a referendum item on the next election ballot? It's not killing of it, because council can bring it back anytime we want with a majority.
With a two-thirds majority reconsideration, you're correct.
So,
Do you want to comment on that question? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there are a number of challenges with a referendum question. Just looking into whether or not we can. This is pretty much the last opportunity that council could provide definitive direction to me in terms of a ballot question, because March 1st is the deadline and we're required to hold a public meeting, so we need to advertise next week. In that ad, I need to have the final wording of the question, and the Municipal Elections Act requires that the question be clear, concise, and neutral, and there's no way that we can get to a question with proper due diligence tonight. You're not going to be able to deliver me. You can't put on the ballot without compromising the validity of the election, do you want a recreation hub? Because first you have to define exactly what is in the recreation hub. And if a senior center is in the recreation hub, what happens if you find another location for the seniors before the election? We cannot amend a question once it's set, and we have to proceed right now to do it. So generally, I've talked to the county solicitor about this, and I have tremendous respect for him, but he hasn't been involved before in an election. He hasn't had this type of review, and his initial inclination is that to determine whether a question is right for a ballot would take multiple weeks. So we're very much past the deadline for doing this at this point, and I don't think it is a possibility for this council to consider. And I also think that there's severe ramifications of putting a question like this on a ballot that should be thoroughly considered by any council before they proceed.
did you say March 1st or February 1st? Because I know there's been at least 2 other referendum votes on this exact topic, and since Google is your friend, you could probably Google a question pretty quick and have it back to us next week.
It's, through you, Mr. Mayor, it's not just Googling the question. The electors need to understand what they're voting on. Right now, council doesn't understand what that question is. So how can you expect an elector to know what is on that question of a hub means? We would need to do a pretty significant public education campaign to try to make people aware of what that question is. The public has no idea of financials. Council has no idea of financials. So how is the public going to be well informed? And you know, you really need somebody who has never looked at a paper, never turned on the radio. They need to be able to walk into that ballot box on voting day and be able to read a very simple question and know exactly what they're voting on. And that was a big problem with a lot of the elections in the States, and we'd be encountering that exact same problem if we proceeded, because we essentially have 1 week to give public notice of what exactly this question is going to be.
The problem with that, Mr. Clerk, they didn't have you as the clerk. See? And I have faith in you that you could pull it off, but okay, if you say you can't.
All right.
If anybody wants to say that they were unaware of the consequences. Yes.
I am going to wrap this up one way or another. We have other business to do this evening. I note that 5 voted against the motion that was just defeated and 4 in favor. I'm going to ask all of those 5 generally if they feel they were well aware and knowledge of what they were voting against and the ramifications of that vote, and if any one of the 5 indicate to the chair that they feel that They didn't quite understand what we were doing and want to go back at this. I will turn it back to the clerk to proceed, and if I hear nothing, then that motion is defeated. Any of the five wish to speak? I think it's time for a break. We started at 3, it is 4:45. Let's have a 20-minute break, please. Thank you, and we'll start our public meeting.
On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger long. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my Southern County home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a Southern County home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger long. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a Southern County home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my Southern County home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dog